I don't have no sympathy. I'm sadistic. I really don't care. I'll do it and I'll do it again over and over and over.
Stephen D. Sanderson. Stephen D. Sanderson, a 51-year-old man already serving a life sentence for the murder of his girlfriend in 1991, found himself facing additional time in prison after killing his cellmate at the Saginaw Correctional Facility. This man, Theodore Dyer, had been convicted of child molestation, which, according to Sanderson, was the catalyst for the violent act. Sanderson had no remorse for killing Dyer. In fact, he showed no empathy for his victim and made it clear that he didn't feel bad about what he did. While he expressed sympathy for the families affected by his actions, he specifically mentioned that he felt no remorse towards Dyer, even calling his act of violence justified. Sanderson stated that he had no sympathy because of the nature of Dyer's crimes. Dyer had been convicted of sexually abusing a child under the age of 13 and was serving time for those horrific acts. Sanderson went as far as to describe the murder of his cellmate as a form of justice, asserting that he had not judged Dyer.
I don't feel bad for what I did, you know. I feel bad for maybe the families, his family or something. But as far as remorse towards him, no.
But instead had merely set up the appointment, referring to Dyer's death as something inevitable. According to Sanderson, Dyer had continued to talk about his crimes and the details of his case, which only further angered Sanderson. Despite his actions, Sanderson denied the label of being a hero, which some people had assigned him. Many saw his killing of a child molester as an act of vigilant justice, but Sanderson rejected this narrative. He insisted that he wasn't trying to make a statement about justice. Rather, he just did what he thought was necessary in that moment. Sanderson emphasized that his action should not be viewed as heroic, but rather as a personal decision made under the circumstances. He expressed that he was fully aware of the consequences of his actions, including the additional life sentence he now faced. After the murder, Sanderson was transferred to a high-security unit within the prison system. This was not his first time being in a high-security prison. His initial conviction for the murder of his girlfriend had already placed him in a similar setting. If you're enjoying this content and finding it engaging, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Shane Goldsby. Shane Goldsby, a 26-year-old prisoner in Washington State, was sentenced to an additional 24 years for the brutal killing of his 70-year-old cellmate, Robert Munger. Goldsby's crime was a response to the shocking discovery that Munger had sexually abused Goldsby's younger sister, which ultimately led to Goldsby's violent attack. Goldsby, who was already serving time for stealing a police car and leading officers on a dangerous chase, found himself in a situation where he shared a prison cell with Munger, a man who had been convicted of multiple counts of child abuse and possession of child pornography. Goldsby's reaction to learning about Munger's crimes was immediate and visceral. He became enraged upon hearing Munger boast about his past crimes, and this anger grew when he discovered that his sister was one of Munger's victims. Goldsby felt betrayed by the system, believing that he was placed in the same cell as the man who had harmed his sister. His shock quickly turned to violence as he attacked Munger, beating him severely. Goldsby knocked Munger to the ground and proceeded to punch and kick him multiple times, ultimately causing Munger's death from the injuries he sustained. Goldsby's crime was not premeditated, but rather an outburst fueled by rage and a sense of helplessness. He had learned about Munger's abuse of his sister only after being placed in the same cell, and the emotional weight of that discovery overwhelmed him.
Give me details about what happened and what he did, about the photos and the videos of him doing this stuff, and it was building up. They put me in a position that I shouldn't even be in to begin with, you know? This shouldn't have happened at all, okay? You talking this dude that did some sick, twisted things to my little sis.
As Goldsby later admitted, he wasn't thinking clearly when he attacked Munger. The revelation of his sister's abuse consumed him. For Goldsby, the act of violence was not just about revenge. It was about confronting the person who had caused so much harm to his family, especially to his sister, who was still a child at the time. Although Goldsby expressed regret over his actions, He was not truly remorseful for the violence he inflicted on Munger. He did not apologize for the murder itself, instead framing it as an inevitable reaction to Munger's crimes. His narrative mirrored a familiar sentiment among some inmates who believe that violence against certain offenders, like child molesters, is justified.
What did you think when you realized it was him?
I was in shock, dude. I was like, what the f? You talking out the blue that they sent me to the same institution, the same unit, the same pod, in the same cell as the dude that got locked up because of what he did to my little sis.
What did he do?
He raped my little sis. The same pod in the same cell as this dude, okay? That's like hitting the jackpot in a casino 7 times.
Goldsby's story is one of emotional turmoil and personal tragedy, as he faced a profound loss that pushed him to commit an act of violence that would change the course of his life. Jamie Osuna. Jamie Osuna, a 31-year-old inmate from California, is one of the most disturbing figures in the prison system. He is known for the gruesome murder and dissection of his cellmate, Romero, in 2019. Osuna's crime shocked even the hardened prison community. He was accused of not just killing Romero, but also mutilating his body in a highly disturbing manner. Osuna cut off Romero's head, eyes, and a piece of his lung, and he even went so far as to position the body in a grotesque manner to create a smiling appearance. He wore a pendant made from Romero's body parts as a macabre trophy. Osuna's violent tendencies were not new. He had a history of cruel and sadistic behavior, including a prior incident where he severely injured another inmate, leaving him with 67 stitches. His actions were fueled by deep psychological issues. Osuna had been diagnosed with schizophrenia, antisocial disorder, and other personality disorders, which contributed to his erratic and violent behavior. In his trial and throughout his prison life, Osuna exhibited little remorse for his actions, showing a chilling indifference to the suffering he caused. Before the murder of Romero, Osuna was serving a life sentence for another violent crime.
I did sadistically, premeditatedly, deliberately tortured and murdered Yvette Pena. I don't have no sympathy. I'm sadistic. I really don't care. I'll do it and I'll do it again over and over and over.
The murder and torture of a woman named Yvette Pena. He had killed her in a Bakersfield motel in 2011, and his behavior during the trial for that crime had already earned him a reputation as a remorseless individual. Osuna's face, covered in tattoos, added to his menacing appearance, and his behavior during the trial was often described as cruel and mocking. Anthony Paradise, a 44-year-old inmate, was sentenced to 17 years to life for the murder of his cellmate, Delmas Tanner, in 2018. Paradise had a long history of violent behavior prior to this incident. He had tried to kill other inmates before, and his violent tendencies were well known within the prison system. His crime against Tanner involved strangling his cellmate with a bedsheet, leading to Tanner's death 4 days later. Paradise had been in and out of trouble with the law for years, with a history of robberies and violent incidents, including attempting to kill another inmate multiple times. Paradise's violent nature was not a one-time occurrence. Before the murder of Tanner, Paradise had attempted to smother another inmate in January 2018, and just months before killing Tanner, he tried to choke another person. Despite these prior attempts at violence, Paradise was still allowed to remain in the prison system, eventually being placed in a cell with Tanner. It was this final act of violence that led to Paradise receiving another life sentence. Paradise's reaction to the killing was typical of many inmates who commit acts of violence without remorse. He admitted to the murder but showed no real regret for his actions. Paradise's admission of guilt was part of his legal strategy, but it did not seem to stem from any real moral reflection. Instead, Paradise framed the killing as just another violent act, reflecting his deep-seated aggression. He was moved to a different facility after the murder, but his history of violence suggested that he was unlikely to change anytime soon. Paradise's story is one of a man who was unable to control his impulses, leading to a life consumed by violence. His actions highlight the challenges of dealing with inmates who have a history of aggression and the limited success of rehabilitation programs within the prison system. Paradise, like others, committed a brutal crime, and his violent past ensured that he would continue to be a danger to others behind bars. If you want to see more, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss out on the next video.